3, 2, 1.
Who was that chick?
That must be an update with Zoom that
Yeah, I
happened.
guess.
Yeah. This is a new segment I was thinking about called Oh Brother Bites. You know, we've talked about the show before the show, so maybe this is the first of Oh Brother Bites. Get it? BYTES?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
It's going good, man.
It could be bites as in BITES too, because it's like a little bite of Oh Brother.
Okay, you're talking about something that the
we
audience
weren't
may
on the
never
air
hear.
for that? We were not. I thought we were on.
Not
that.
necessarily. But now you may force me to edit that into the episode somehow. That's going to be a hell of an opening. All right, so it's June 2nd, 2021, and we are jumping on to do... Actually, hold on one second. I need to jump on to Webster's Dictionary real quick. Okay, here we go. Hiatus. A pause or gap in a sequence, series, or process. Yeah, I thought the Oh Brother Podcast was on a hiatus, but by the time the listeners hear this will be the third episode we've published in like the last couple of weeks.
So we're publishing more on hiatus than we did before.
Seriously, we're more active on hiatus than we ever were. The last episode that we put out was, of course, our first year anniversary episode. And we forgot to mention, when I went back and I was watching the episode, we did not thank two very significant people involved in the production of this podcast. So I wanted to take a second here at the top to do that. One is to thank Dave Diaz, who was responsible for really, shifting sort of the tone and the production quality of the show from the standpoint of that theme song that we had. If you go back and listen to the first couple of episodes,
what was it? Chicken song?
Chicken feet or something? Chicken scratch? I don't know. I Had a Chicken, I think was the name of it, maybe.
It was weird, but it worked in its own way. But
yeah, but
his stuff is much better.
Once we became the serious and distinguished podcast that we are, we needed to up our game a little bit. So Dave came through, basically it was a quick conversation with him about sort of, first of all, what the podcast was about, and giving him an idea of sort of the genre or theme, and as soon as I heard it, I thought, I told you this before, 80s films, that kind of synth, that synthesizer that's prominent in those films.
It fit
perfect. It's perfect. So huge thanks to Dave. And then also Andrea Benham, who has been responsible for doing all of our YouTube thumbnail artworks, which has just been so fun.
I hope people appreciate those as much as we do.
Well, I know that you appreciate the one for the solo episode, because
I love it.
You're a doppelganger for
I could have played solo
for Ehrenreich there. Yeah, you could have.
I could have been solo.
And it goes to prove that Han Solo should always have been wearing 3D glasses throughout the Star Wars saga.
That's it for people who have never seen us on the internet. Andrea includes us in the graphic for each episode and kind of puts our face and a character. And I happen to be Solo in the Solo episode, and you were I was looking
Lando Calrissian. I was an even stranger looking Chewbacca prior to that edit.
I didn't see that.
Thanks to her. That was a special request that I made behind the scenes. But and Andrea is also responsible for setting up the Oh Brother Studio 6H here. So so big thanks to them for helping us with the production. And again, that was our first year anniversary episode, the last episode. If you haven't caught that, make sure that you do. And if you're not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things Oh Brother is to go out to our official website, which is ohbpodcast.com. That's OHB as in brother podcast.com. Get access to all our social media out there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch our videos out there. We also have a blog out there. In fact, that leads into our episode today, which is Mike put out a blog just recently titled, it was the best of Al, it was the worst of Al, sort of breaking down Al Pacino's film career and some of the hits and misses over that long storied career, which
Mostly
we'll get into.
Hits.
Mostly hits, yeah. And I have a question about that I want to ask you. Before we get into it, I had one other thing I wanted to mention. Now, you know that I'm a real sensitive guy, right? And I'm in a relationship now with an incredible woman who I love dearly. And I'm not ashamed to say that, from time to time, we communicate through FaceTime. And oftentimes we will, if we're on the go or, sort of quick getting in and out in the morning, we'll send each other just a video to check in and, just something kind of endearing that we do. And so the other day I just got back from a workout, and I was doing some meditation, which I've gotten into recently. And I sent her a video, just saying hello, checking in. And, she was out and about doing her thing. And, it was a little sentimental. I'm not ashamed to say, a couple of I love yous here and there and whatnot. So I hit send, sent her the video, and then immediately realized that I sent the video to the owner of the boxing gym that I go to almost every day. And
oh man,
needless to say, oh yeah, yeah.
Did you know until you got to the boxing place?
No, I knew immediately after I hit send. So I was, and of course, any iPhone user out there knows that there's no way to retract those videos. Once it's sent, it's gone.
There should be some kind of warning, because I had an incident where I went for a job interview.
Yeah, this is a great story.
And I didn't get it. And I really wanted the job.
But this was an email debacle.
Right. This was email, which is kind of the same thing, because once it goes, it's gone.
Yeah.
You can't, go grab it. Well, I think
there are ways to do
you
that.
Can. Yeah.
There is.
But I didn't know. I thought I was sending it to you.
Right.
And I simply sent one word.
Yes.
And it began with an F, and it's 4 letters.
Right.
And instead of sending it to you, I thought I had forwarded it to you. I replied to her, the woman who interviewed me.
And she replied back to you.
She replied back instantly with just, excuse me?
It wasn't an offer letter? Wow, what a shock.
And I was like, what? And I just had to, eat it and say, I'm so sorry. I was disappointed. That was meant for my brother. And she wrote back, she obviously laughed about it and thought it was funny afterwards.
Right.
But that still haunts me.
Well, I was mortified as soon as I sent it. And here's another funny aspect to it is I was shirtless when I recorded it. So all he sees on his end is me like sitting in a chair shirtless, making kissy faces. Oh, brother.
Oh, brother.
Once again, we live up to the name of the show.
I'm surprised, I never get those kind of texts from you.
Well, this is the thing. I'm surprised you didn't say it, because I have sent you.
I did get one.
I sent it to you. And
right.
when she and I were talking about that, I remember you replied back to me. You said, I don't think this was for me, but can I keep the hugs and kisses?
Yeah, I said, I assume this isn't for me, but
right. But so I'm like, oh my God, I have to now. So I immediately texted him and I said, hey, listen, that was, sent it by mistake, et cetera, whatever, trying to make a joke out of it. I said, hey, I'm a lover, not a fighter, and
right.
So then I had to go. I also left my water bottle at the gym.
Right.
So I went and said, hey, you're going to be around later on? He said, yeah, because he never responded. He didn't reply at all, which made it worse.
Right.
I'm thinking he's around the boxing gym, like with all the, the gang,
hey guys,
and they're all watching.
You'll
never guess what this idiot did. Yeah. So I showed up, and he's a real stand-up guy, and I do take him at his word, because when I showed up right on time when he was getting ready to open the jump, and he's rolling up the doors. And as soon as the last one opened up, I'm standing there. I said, "Hey, do you have my dignity back there?" and he kind of looked at me, for a second, and was like, "What?" And then he goes, "Oh no." He goes, "Look, that's something private between you and your lady friend,
And Dan, can you get in and spar with Cindy?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that happens, by the way. You'd
Yeah,
be
and Cindy.
surprised.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, there's my story of the episode. It's
Man,
very humiliating.
I don't
And
have any stories like that.
no, well,
Mm.
I'll have to send you a couple videos after the show then. All right, so let's dive into this. It's the best of Al, the worst of Al. Of course, we're talking about the great Al Pacino, who has long been my favorite actor
Yeah.
of all time, and he still is. Although, as we'll talk through this, and I'll have you kick it off just based on the fact that you put the blog out, and sort of the impetus behind doing this episode, sort of bring that blog content to life.
Yeah.
I just wish that he was pumping out some different films at this particular point in his career. And you make a point of that towards the end
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
blog. So set us up, and then we can sort of get into the
About
different
where the
films.
idea came
Yeah.
from, or yeah, well, basically, you had called me the other night and said, "Hey, let's jump on and do something." But you hadn't watched anything. I said, "Well,
Right.
I just watched this, I just watched that." And you were like, "Well, I haven't watched anything." And I
And this
was
was going to
thinking,
be, it's going to be our Cruella episode, which will probably be the one you hear after this, but
right. So and you said, I'm just gonna crank and go to bed or whatever. And I said, "Oh, okay." And as soon as like you left, I thought, "Oh, we could have done this episode on Al Pacino on his high." I don't know how it jumped into my head. It just did. Um, I don't know if I saw like a commercial for a movie or a preview or something. And I thought, man, the beginning of his career, it was like knockout after knockout after knockout performance. And then he started doing some pretty awful stuff with Simone and some horrible things. The worst one being Jack and Jill in my book.
mm.
And
And Gigli.
and he was in Gigli with Ben Affleck and what's her name?
Affleck. Where'd the T come from?
Affleck.
Yeah, Affleck.
Yeah. But you know, I was just looking at his just his resume of work, and I thought it'd be a good episode. And then I was kind of had it in my brain, and I said, while this is in my brain, let me just put it on paper.
Yeah.
And I
It's a
wrote the
good
blog.
it's a good blog, and it breaks down really the majority of his career.
A
But
good chunk of it. I
there's a
left out some things,
yeah, there
but
was a
yeah.
couple of things you left out. I was actually surprised that certainly one of them, but another one that I wanted to mention. The first one was Looking for Richard. I don't think you mentioned that in there.
I didn't mention it
Right.
because and it, you know,
That's
I was
obviously on
looking
the
at
hits side of
yes,
things.
I was looking at all of his, his work. And that's one of I love. I don't have it because it's not on Blu-ray.
Okay. But it's
And
on DVD.
I think it was on DVD because I know I had it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was VHS. I think I had it on DVD. But probably I figured people probably didn't know it.
Probably not. I mean, that was one omission. The other one, which is I don't know where this ranks for you, but it's a movie I've always liked. Not It's not a great film, but it's not one of his worst films by any stretch, which is Sea of Love.
Oh, I thought that was in there.
No, that with the great Ellen Barkin and
Yeah, I
John
thought it was
Goodman
in
is in
there
that. Yeah, no, I don't think you mentioned that one, but that's and
because I had
is that on Blu-ray? Because I don't have that.
it is. It is
Yeah.
on Blu-ray. In fact, it's funny because just before we were getting ready to go, I was turning around because I have a bunch of Al up here,
As do I.
and I
Yeah.
was turning around looking for Sea of Love,
Oh, okay.
And
And I don't think you mentioned Oceans, which he appears in the last.
right, I didn't mention it. I was going to because I thought he was good in that trilogy,
Yeah.
but it got to the point there was so many movies.
Right.
He's got,
Right.
I mean, he literally bangs out a movie a year at
Yeah.
least.
Right.
And
But
in
yeah,
the
you
early days, it was consistently just a hit.
and you took it up to the current, with his role as Hoffa, and then of course he's in that what Amazon series, right?
Yeah, Hunter, it's called,
Right. Right.
where I have not watched it.
Is it Hunter? Is that right?
It's called Hunter, I think.
I thought it was.
At least that's how it was listed.
That's
Because I
close.
thought it
Yeah.
was The Hunted.
No, it's. I feel like it's a longer title than that. But anyways, so here's a question though: Is it Al or is the films?
Well, ultimately, he has to decide if he's going to do the film, right? Nobody's got a gun to his head unless, it's a prior arrangement. Like we talked about Solo, how how the actor who played Solo was
Alden Ehrenreich.
right. He was set up to do sequels. So if there was sequels, in that case, he's kind of committed to it.
Yeah.
But one thing in my research, I found out that I did not know this, which you would have thought all the time we have spent listening and studying about The Godfather, I would have known this. Godfather 2, he held up production of Godfather 2 for, I had put this in the blog and then I pulled it out
Uh-huh.
because it wasn't what the blog was about. But he held up the production for a month because he was not pleased with the script.
Hmm.
So Francis Ford Coppola had to do multiple rewrites, took him a month, which is a long time for him.
Yeah.
And then finally he submitted it to Al, and Al gave it the green. So think about, I never knew that.
No.
The other thing was, um, he wasn't when they were filming. It took 11 months to make Godfather 2.
No.
And when they were filming it, you can see why. It goes back and forth in timelines. It's a very
Yeah.
complicated
Which is on
piece to
my
shoot.
which is on my top 5 film list.
Yes. And Godfather 1 on mine.
Yeah.
But he was very frustrated with the amount of takes and how long it was taking. And he kept saying, Scarface. No, I'm sorry. He kept saying Serpico, Serpico, because they shot Serpico in 19 days.
Right.
And, once he had that experience, that's what he wanted,
Yeah. Which my
you
girlfriend and
know?
I just watched, by the way.
Serpico?
Serpico.
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah.
I have it. It's over my shoulder right here.
Ah, you run for me. I'll put one in your back. It's such a great, it's such a good film.
That's
That's
obviously a
me doing
highlight.
that's me doing Alec Baldwin doing Al Pacino in
Right.
Serpico. He does
Something
it,
like that.
but Baldwin does a great Pacino.
Does he?
Yeah.
The best is who is the guy on Saturday Night Live that used to do him? Bill Hader, I think.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Did
Yeah.
Bill Hader do an
I
excellent
think it
Pacino?
was Bill
He
Hader.
also
Yeah.
did like the only one I know who does Alan Arkin,
Yeah. That's obscure.
or no, Alan Alda,
Alan Alda. Right.
which
Right.
is like, who
Right.
does that?
Alan Arkin actually in Glengarry Glen Ross
That's right.
with Al Pacino.
And also, well, let's forget that. Let's talk about Al.
Okay. Yeah.
So the early days, I left out Needle Park too, because I think
I know
there,
you. There's a quick reference to it in
there's a
there.
reference
There
to it,
is.
but I
Yeah.
didn't go into it in depth. I
No.
kind of started with Godfather 1, but his career really started. There was a couple of roles before Needle Park, but they were just small. But Panic in Needle Park was really his first big film. And I don't know, I don't love that movie. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's great. It's not, like when you compare it to The Godfather, I don't think there's a comparison. So
No.
I really started at The Godfather. Imagine starting there.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that's
the jumping point.
Which is probably, I would imagine that's where I first was introduced to him. Would have been the Godfather trilogy. Well, not trilogy, but the number 1 and 2. By the time I would have seen him, it would have been, second one would have been long out by then. And
the interesting thing for me is when HBO first started, which I believe is in 75. Almost positive.
I know you've said that before. That seems really old to me. I don't think it was that old.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 75.
Really?
Home box office. It was, and dad was like, we're going to get this as soon as it comes out. It was like, it's like box office at the home. And
I got to look that up. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, check it out because I'm pretty sure it's 75.
Right.
I'd be willing to bet money. But
Let's see.
When it first aired, when it first premiered, The Godfather Part 1 and 2 were on it and playing, like it's like when MTV premiered and it was like the same music video over.
Now that I remember. No, I'm still looking it up. I was saying MTV. I remember. Do you know what the first video was on MTV?
She said, yeah, I'm going to know it when you say it.
Video Killed a Radio Star by the Bugaloos.
Interesting.
There you go.
I wouldn't have known it.
Wow. Now, this blows my mind. This really blows my
72.
mind. November 8th, 1972.
Yeah. See?
I was just a young pup.
So see, it makes sense that The Godfather premiered on the...
That's amazing.
Because it had just come out.
Yeah.
And here it was in your home. And you paid a nominal fee back then. I don't even know what the fee was.
Right.
But I remember when it first came out, and there was no commercials and it was unedited.
Oh, it was the greatest. And remember that logo, the way the logo used to, the silver, it used to come in and spin. And that was very cool.
The reason I know it was back in the 70s because I was a huge Steve Martin fan.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you stop hitting the mic so I don't have to spend 19 hours editing?
You know what I'm doing is I'm hitting the cord.
Good Lord, folks.
The cord out of my way.
Good Lord, folks. Again, that's Oh Brother Bites.
This is what I put up with all the time.
That's Oh Brother Bites, folks, coming to you live.
Coming to you live. And plus, like the nudity, and stuff like that. When you're in junior high and all of a sudden you're seeing nudity on TV, you're like, whoa. Hey.
Right.
And I swear to
like
God.
when you're seeing it, from a client at your boxing gym. There's another...
I swear to God, if I watched HBO, if I had it on, and we only had a couple TVs at this time, right? It was kind of in the main room and maybe dad had one, but
they weighed about 500 pounds.
Yeah. If I had it on HBO and nudity came on, it was like a magnet for mom.
Yes.
It was like,
she just
nudity,
happened to
mom.
Appear. Right.
What are you watching? I'm like,
nothing, Ma.
It's The Godfather. I mean, come
on, Mom. You're 4. Now, jumping around, no particular sequence here, but again, I want to encourage people to go check out the blog that's out now on Al Pacino, because it really does a great job. I mean, even because you put this out, I hadn't even read it until yesterday. I was like, gosh. The resume to me was even like, oh my God, oh yeah, and that film, film, and it's amazing. And God, Insomnia with Robin Williams is such a great film.
Yeah,
but one of the
that.
Yes, I see it over there. One of the best monologues that he's done is in Any Given Sunday. That speech he gives in the locker room is in fact, I used that when I taught speech years ago. I used to use that clip as one of many, but what a great
City
Hall, right?
There's another one where
that's right,
when he's over the young kid's casket.
That's why I ask you now to join me. Join me. Rise up with me. Rise up on the wings of this slain angel. We'll rebuild on the soul of this little warrior. We will pick up his standard and raise it high. carry it forward until this city, your city, our city, his city is a palace again. Is a palace again.
Isn't that Bridget Fonda?
Yes.
Who's in Godfather 3?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Who unfortunately isn't acting anymore. Which,
right.
So disappointed. I had pegged her for like a bigger star than Jane Fonda.
Now, give us both credit for promoting, well, you point to yours, but promoting the Godfather Coda.
Coda, right.
The re-release of
which
Godfather
disappointed
Part
us
3,
greatly.
Which, as two of the biggest Godfather 3 fans on the planet.
Yep.
Hands down. Man, was that a disappointment. But anyways, and that's the one that's most represented here is the Godfather, because there's the, here's
the trilogy,
the Francis Ford Coppola signature box.
Yes.
And then there's the Omerta edition there for those watching on YouTube.
My 1 and 2 are behind Godfather 3.
I love the Scarface tin, the steel book.
Yep.
That's a great one. And then Glengarry Glen Ross, which we talked about on the last episode.
We did. And also, remember life-changing episodes. Mine was Injustice for All.
That's right.
That's why I went to law school.
You're out of order.
He also did Devil's Advocate. Think about the end of Devil's Advocate where he goes on that wild rant between, his 2 kids, and he's trying to, bring them together because he's the devil.
And that's the thing about Pacino for me is, and again, we're talking about the best so far for the most part. We'll have to touch on a little the misses, but is the intensity that he brings to pretty much every performance, and certainly all of the major films that you would know him from, The Godfather and all the ones that you mentioned. There's always that one scene where he's yelling at the top of his lungs. Have you ever heard him in an interview addressing that? Because it really is interesting. The one, of course, that stands out to me, maybe you as well, it's always been the standout to me, is Godfather Part 2, where he and Diane Keaton, and she reveals to him that she's aborted their baby.
Which that was not the original play in that. The original idea was a miscarriage.
Right.
And it was Sophia, not Sophia, it was his sister.
Talia Shire,
who had the idea, because she knew he would never forgive that.
And the look on his face, and just the whole tension that's built in that scene, leading up to the climax of that scene, where I still swear he open-handed her, smacked her with, I mean, oh my God.
And they were good friends. And I'm sure brutal. She said, hit me.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
It's shocking to watch.
The worst part about it is when you watch the commentary or listen to the commentary while you're watching it, Coppola just lets it go by.
Breezes right over it.
He's just talking about the lighting or something. And I'm like,
Now, have you looked up what Al has in the works, or, like what's on the docket?
Well, it was focused on the show he's doing for Amazon.
Right.
And I saw some photographs where, the makeup, almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a peculiar subject, vampire hunting. I just haven't taken the time to sit down and watch it. But to me, and it's obviously it's gotten mixed reviews, and I have it behind me somewhere.
I'm looking up now.
It's right here, The Irishman.
Right. Yeah.
Where he played Jimmy Hoffa, and alongside with De Niro, along with Joe Pesci giving one of his best performances out of retirement.
You were right, Hunters.
It is Hunters, yeah.
Hunters, yeah. So are there any of these that stand out and you think his performance was lacking?
That's a good
Like,
question.
think of the worst film that you noted in the blog would be
I
what?
think like he did two with De Niro
I
that
mean,
were
you could,
really bad to me. After they did Heat,
yeah,
which was the first time they were on
awesome.
screen together.
So
And it was
highly
only what,
anticipated.
15, 20 minutes that they were together.
If that, yeah.
And it was just electric.
Hmm.
I mean, that was a good movie.
It
That
was
made it
electric.
kind of a great movie.
Michael Mann.
And Michael Mann. And it was shot so well. But that sequence when hey, pull over, let's have a talk, it was just
Right.
great. But then they get together and they do two movies, one called 88 Minutes. Have you
Yes.
seen that?
I saw it in the theater.
It's 88 minutes of
Yeah.
torture.
That's 88 minutes I'm never getting back.
Yeah. That was horrible. And then they did another one. And I can't even think of the
I'm
name
not
of
sure
it.
if I saw another one after that.
Yeah, they did another one. Oh, some Righteous Kill
Oh, yeah. I don't
was
think
the
I ever
name of
saw
it.
that. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
In that, I'd say both of them phoned it in because, if you look at Robert De Niro, followed a similar course. I can write a blog about
Well,
him.
he's in Bad Grandpa. I mean, that's
And the funny thing is his lawyer has argued in court that he does these terrible movies because of an ex-wife that he has to pay ridiculous child support to,
yeah.
which it is true. It's something like 50,000 a month. I mean, imagine paying that in child support. So he has to crank out these movies to feed her child support. I don't blame him for being pissed off, but that argument isn't going to work.
No.
Um, but what
Yeah, but
about
he's
you?
but
I
he's Robert
mean,
De Niro. He doesn't need to do Bad
no.
Grandpa. He's got probably a stack of scripts 3 miles high that he could choose from, and you're telling me he lands on the War with Grandpa, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I know.
Come
But I
on.
think I think what it is he looks at the paycheck and the
Yeah.
amount of time, and he's like, let's do it 15 days on the shoot, send her the check, and I'm
I
done.
mean, for me, the most recent, of course, that stands out to me is Hoffa, and wasn't a big fan of that. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't even a big fan of The Irishman overall. I got to be honest. I just
And
wasn't.
I was
I didn't
just
buy
bringing
into
this
the
up.
hype. Yeah, I didn't buy into the hype, and I just didn't think there was a couple of like flashes of his brilliance,
Yeah.
but other than that, it seemed like a very sort of lazy part to me, to be honest with you. Like, it
I
was just
didn't
Al
see it that
Pacino
way.
and cosmetics and or what am not cosmetics. What am I thinking of?
De-aging, whatever.
De-aging, yeah,
A
and
lot of people
prosthetics is
a
what I
lot
meant.
of people criticized it for the length of time. It's the butt of a lot of jokes because of how
Right, but that's
long it
also
was.
Scorsese, for God's sakes.
Right. And
Don't be
but
surprised.
you know, I'm looking at the movie as a whole, not just Al. Pesci was outstanding. That should have been an Academy Award. And I think if it was a normal release at a normal time in the theater and it wasn't
Maybe,
as long,
maybe,
Joe
yeah.
Pesci would have had another Academy Award.
They certainly could have tightened that up. There's no question about
Yeah,
it.
and like I have um behind me here, I think that's it. I have it, and it's the Criterion collection, which has even more.
What's in between Insomnia and Serpico?
That's
Back to.
Injustice for All.
Oh, I see. Yep. Now I see
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And one that's not up there that is again one of the epic, and I'm holding it up.
Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah.
And the reason I'm holding up this particular version is because when you open it, if you see on the cover, and again for the people listening, it's John Cazale and Al Pacino.
The late great John Cazale.
And we've talked about him a few times. He's been in two of my blogs. When you open it up, it's got a bonus disc called
Oh,
"I
okay.
Knew It Was You," and that's about
Oh,
John Cazale.
Very cool. Of course, a reference to Godfather too, with him, his character is Fredo, his brother, of course.
Exactly. Where
Yeah.
I knew it was you when he kisses him, the ultimate
And if you,
scene.
I mean, go and look at any of John Cazale's work, but if you want to see an epic scene between he and Al Pacino, that scene in Godfather 2, where
Which one? When he's sitting down, or
when he's
when
sitting down, when he's sitting down, and it's
Amazing.
really John Cazale's scene,
Yep.
you know, and he finally expresses his frustration of sort of being passed over as the, you know, the dim-witted, if you will,
They were
brother.
buddies, real good buddies,
Yeah.
and they grew up together. Basically, Al dropped out of high school, and it was not a normal high school; it was a high school for the performing arts.
Mhm.
And he dropped out of high school, and he was sleeping at theaters, like sleeping on the floor for some place to live. And he talks about, working with Martin Sheen, and Martin Sheen got a role ahead of him, and he would sit in the
Yeah.
back and watch
It's
him. And he
so
talks about John Cazale.
we'll
a
have to
lot.
get Martin Sheehan and Ben Affleck doing
Yeah.
a film together.
Hey,
what the hell is going on tonight?
You know me with names. I'm always
Martin
like adding
Sheehan?
a syllable.
Martin Sheehan, though.
You tagged me on
Christ's sake.
You tagged me on this already when I mentioned Charlie Sheen.
Martin
And
Sheehan.
That's how I say it.
It's Sheen.
That's how I say it. I
Good
say
Lord.
it's Sheen.
Oh my God! It was
It
the
looks
best
like
of Mike.
Sheehan.
It was the best of Mike. It was the worst of Mike. You're
see
getting it all
Sheehan.
tonight, folks.
I see Sheehan when I look at his name. That's what it is.
Yeah, you say Sheehan. Everybody else says Sheen.
Yeah. Well,
So-
everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
But going back to Al and John Cazale, because
Yeah.
I couldn't do this with John Cazale. I couldn't say the best of John, the worst of John, because there's only the best of John, because he only did 5 films, and all 5 are nominated for an Academy Award. 3 of them won.
Right.
I mean, talk about a resume.
Yeah.
And they were like 2 school kids. They had to be separated on set, because they were always giggling and chuckling. And there's a lot of great stories about the 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great personal and professional relationship for sure. Well,
Yeah.
That was the thing I wanted to really get at was, is it Al or is it the choice? Isn't, as you pointed out, I mean, at the end of the day, it's his choice to make, unless there was some contractual thing where.
Have you
he
ever
sorta
seen
had to do it.
Jack and Jill?
No, and I never will.
I couldn't get through it.
Yeah, I never will.
But there's one where he does a commercial, and he walks in and he says, "Hey, what's my name?" And everyone says, "Duncan." "I'm not Al, I'm Duncan." And he's doing a commercial for Dunkin' Donuts, and it's called Dunkachino. I'm Duncan. I'm Dunkachino. I'm Dun. I mean,
wow, that's awful.
That tells you enough, right? He
awful.
chose to do that.
Yeah.
And of course, it was a joke, because he's being shown the commercial by Adam Sandler.
Right.
And as soon as the commercial stops, Al's sitting there, and it's, he's playing himself. He goes, "Burn that. I don't ever want to see that. Don't ever show that to anyone."
How did Adam Sandler pull that off?
I don't know. And he promoted it. Al went out and promoted it.
Yeah, you hear that beeping sound? It's a truck backing up to Al's front door, dropping off a boatload of cash.
And I wrote under the caption, it should have been a career killer for both of them.
Right.
And it wasn't, because, I don't know, Adam Sandler gets away with making horrible movies.
It's one of the most baffling things ever. And I like Adam Sandler as like a person, and he has done some great, great. He's done some pretty good films.
I like him as a serious
dramatic actor. Right.
He did
Punch Drunk Love,
Uncut Gems,
Punch
Drunk Love.
Yeah.
Go that route. Stay that route, man.
I know. We need more of that. Well, what's the moral of the story here for you?
I think I agree with you. I'm like, especially look at Clint Eastwood, right, in his 90s. And he still can crank out a solid movie.
Or the recently nominated Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, although I could do a Sir Anthony.
No, but I'm just saying, even like he's still putting out very solid.
I mean, he just won the Academy Award, the most recent, and deserved it.
Yeah, and time will tell, right? For The Father, we'll have to see with these upcoming films from Al what that brings us.
Yeah, because I hope, and again, I think Hoffa was a good step back into it.
Yeah,
and he can do better. I like the movie. I like Hoffa. The de-aging is a little rough, but that's part of movie making now.
But Al is like one of a minority. He's bankable, right? He's money in the bank. It's like Denzel. Whenever Denzel's in a film, I'm going to see it. I don't care if it's good or bad.
Tom Hanks is like that too.
And I wonder, I would challenge you to see, could you do this with Denzel? I wonder. That would be an interesting filmography to go through and see how many hits and misses,
John Q.
Yeah, but okay, that's one film. I'm just saying the whole arch of his, of his career.
It's one thing to have a clunker here and there.
Yeah.
But when you do like 4 or 5 in a row that are just, you're like, he doesn't agree with us, by the way, on Godfather 3.
No.
He doesn't agree with us. He thinks it was a mistake. So,
well, we'll have to have him on the podcast.
Exactly.
Conversation.
Imagine having him on. Hey, Al, how you doing? Oh, how you doing?
Well, if he's done Jack and Jill, he might just agree to be on the Old Brother podcast. It's not that far fetched. Yeah.
If you notice what's not behind me, Scent of a Woman.
Ooh-ah.
And I make this point in the blog is that was a makeup award in my opinion.
Correct.
Because he should have won 3 or 4 by then.
That's right.
And that movie is not on my top 1,000 list.
No.
And I had ordered it from Amazon and it was like late and I just canceled it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm not going to watch it.
Well, the bottom line is he's still the great Al Pacino. He's still my favorite actor of all time.
Me too.
And thank God he's still out there doing it. That's the most important thing. And go check out the blog because there's certainly far more hits than misses. In this guy's filmography. So, we hope he keeps pumping out projects.
As I was writing it down.
Yeah.
I'm going down the list and I'm like, I'm thinking, there's not a lot of misses now that I look at the list.
Yeah.
Compared to the hits.
Right. Yeah. But the ones that are misses are real stinkers.
Really misses.
Real stinkers. Yeah.
That's what it was.
But check that out. And you can check that out again. If you're not following us already, go to the Old Brother official website, which is ohbpodcast.com. That's OHB as in brother podcast.com. And you can find the blog there. You get access to all our other social media. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you like our videos out there. And we will likely be coming at you with our review of the recently released Cruella prequel starring Emma Stone. So that's coming up next on the Old Brother podcast. Anything else you want to say as we close here about Big Al?
Just that, like you, I consider him my favorite actor. There's a lot of great ones. James Mason, Marlon Brando. Brando did the same kind of plunge off the cliff, but Al, I think when somebody asks me, I always immediately say Al.
Yeah, I don't hesitate for sure. Yeah. Al Pacino. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Old Brother podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
This podcast is not what I wanted.
You're telling me.
Bye, everyone.